You're listening to RIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out RIARadio.com.
I think the worst thing for me is, I don't want to be that person that flips one house a year or does one big project a year, and then 20 years later, you've done 20 projects. That to me scares the living daylights. So it's like if I ever need motivation to do something, I can just go down that rabbit hole, and then it's like, okay, nope, here we go.
Welcome to RIA Radio, episode 232 with Elijah Erdei.
All day Erdei. Elijah, I have to ask you a follow-up to our pre-recording conversation about, did you say you graduated with like 2 people from high school?
I mean, if you can call it that. It was the school's not accredited. So
okay.
Then what would happen is if kids graduated from our school, then they would have whatever school they went to would essentially just call the bishop of our school, and he would just give them some information, and they would always accept it. So
I cannot think of the last time somebody mentioned a school in Omaha, in our backyard, that I've never heard of. And what is it called again? Say it again.
It's a Mater Dei Academy.
Mater Dei.
Yeah.
And that's Latin, apparently.
Yeah, Mother of God.
Huh. Interesting. So, did you go to prom?
No.
There's not too many prom dates.
There's only 2 or 3 people. Well, there's like 3 dudes in this class. It's a little slim pickings.
Options would have been like family, so you would do it anyway, because it just started off with a couple of smaller families and then just kind of grew into several families, but it still was like 70 kids, even with just several families since.
Oh, wow.
All they did.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So your family, did you have a big family? So you were rattling off brothers like they were serial names.
Yeah. 5 brothers and 6 sisters. So it's been fun.
What size of house? I mean, did you get into construction just because you had to build on additions for the continued growth of your family, or what's the deal with this?
No. My parents had rentals, and so we just learned how to work on those as like little kids, which is funny when you're 5 and 6 and you get guys in trucks pulling up saying, "Hey, you can paint my house next," and it's like, because it's an army of just little kids painting. And so then I mostly just got into construction because it fell into it really in high school. But with the siblings, I don't think we ever had more than 3 kids in one room. So like we grew up in a really good size house in Keystone. So it's just
okay.
It was really nice.
I'd like to ask my dad, not my real dad, because he's passed away, but he was one of 12. And I've never asked any of the uncles or aunts that question. That'd be a fun one to ask.
Yeah, it just kills me too, because how there's a lot of, it's probably always been said, but now it's just amplified because of social media, and it's like, everywhere now. But when people are like, like everybody deserves to have a 3-bed, 2-bath house with 1-car or 2-car garage and all that. And then you're like, dude, like our parents' generation were stuffing like families of 10 into a 2-bed, 1-bath, 800 square foot house.
That's exactly what my family, it was a 2-bed house.
Yeah.
And there's 14 of them that lived there.
Jeez.
And it was under 1,000 square foot, and it had dirt floors, and it was a ranch.
You had a large security deposit, I imagine.
It was just a kind of a crappy old North Omaha house back in the day,
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Okay, so big family. So you're 36 years old, but you have about 32 years of experience in construction.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that. That's pretty impressive. So small school, you finished up there, I assume, graduated?
Not technically, no.
You just give you a high five when it's not accreditation.
Pretty much what it is. And then they tell you to go get your GED. So I just did that. And then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. College after that, or did you dive right into workforce?
Well, I was already in the workforce, so I got a special dispensation from our school that I was able to do my homework at home because I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
At 16. So in construction, coincidentally, just as a painter. And so then I was able to do my schoolwork, hand it in, they approved it. And then from there, just pretty much jumped right to my GED, got that, and then went to college for, in my head, I always thought it was for like a whole year. And then I recently looked back and found out that I only had like 3 classes that I passed. And so I was like, okay, it's technically like a quarter. But right then, though, that's when college went from being able to afford, like you were able to work and pay for it as you went, to not anymore.
Yeah, you're going to be in debt for the next 25 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, my college, whatever the credits were, the cost doubled in the time in 1 year that I was going there. So I was like, okay, well, I guess never mind that. Because I was in construction, then I also had like a lawn care company. So I was mowing lawns, and I remember my mower broke down, and it was like, okay, I can either afford to fix my mower or go to college. Which one pays the bills?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, never mind.
Okay, let me ask you this. So it sounds like you've had a lawn mowing business. You started as a painter when you were a wee lad and continued doing that after kind of going full time into the workforce. And you've done a whole bunch of stuff since then, which we'll talk about. But best and worst components of remodels. What say you?
Best and worst components?
Like what is painting, carpentry work, trim work, flooring. If you were picking up a tool today, what would be your preferred trade? Are you absolutely sick of painting?
I'm sick of painting, but now it's when you're so proficient at it, it's almost like you've done it so much that you've gone from hating it to loving it. And so I'd still probably go back into painting but I would never be able to just do painting. I'd still have to do cabinets and flooring and trim and doors and
variety.
It's like being a real estate agent.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just stick with one little thing. You have to stay right into it because after you learn the other stuff, it hurts to withdraw from it. You'd have to still keep moving forward.
Oh, so you get remodel FOMO then.
If
He's doing the cabinets. That looks fun.
No, that's real for sure. And then, but otherwise, as far as like an opposite of that, I hate drywall. I don't ever want to hang drywall ever again. I don't ever want to do drywall finishing again. If I never have to do that, I'm happy.
Why is that? Is it because, and I've heard that quite a bit for people that have done remodeling over the years where they're like, oh, nope, I don't do drywall anymore. Is it just because the sheets are so heavy and hanging it just sucks and it really wears you out? Or is it the finish work and it's dirty? Or like what of it is it that makes it bad?
Yes.
All of it?
Yeah,
Got it.
Because when I first started off, it was one man army. Even when I was in construction, the guy that was training me to be a painter, I worked for him off and on for 10 years, and it got to the point very quickly where he was like, "Hey, well, this is the house we're flipping over this winter, or these two houses, and just go through and do everything yourself." And so then when you hang an entire house, it was like 600 square feet, but when you're hanging all that by yourself, your shoulders go out, your hands hurt, and it's a different kind of hurt than just like picking up construction block and moving it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that specifically drywall is why I'm like, just never mind, no more. So I have really great drywallers now. But, that was like that's actually the first thing I hired out, other than maybe roofers.
Oh yeah. Did you do roofing for a while too?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you have done a lot of this from an early age. At what point did you start kind of eating your own cooking with regards to working on projects? I know before we hit record, you mentioned you started and you've like flipped houses on your own, like completely on your own, basically, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I got into it, the guy that had hired me and trained me for painting in the winter months and like fall holiday seasons, essentially, people don't want you. We were doing really high end houses, and those people don't want you in their houses over the holidays. So every winter he'd buy 1 or 2 or 3 HUD homes, and we would go through and just remodel those. And so while I was learning painting throughout most of the year, he was still showing me how to do flooring and cabinets and windows, doors, everything.
Kind of in the off season.
Yep, yeah. In the off season. And so then, after we did a few of those, he was very much so one of the kind of guy that was like, "Hey, do you want to work some overtime this week?" And it's like Wednesday because we're already 40 hours in. And it's like, yeah. I mean, the money's good. Let's go.
And for the listeners that don't know what a HUD home is, can you explain that?
I'm not even sure really anymore if they even do them.
They do. The site's still up. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The site's up. Don't you have to pay for it now?
No. Well, at least I was on it about 6 months ago and you didn't.
Oh, okay. But with a HUD home, it was essentially, from my understanding, if you got like a Freddie Mac loan or something, if you had a loan and you defaulted on it, that was a government loan that you could like get it at auction.
It would go to HUDhomestore.com.
Yeah.
And it'd be available to purchase. For the first right to refusal goes to a traditional buyer that wants to buy it and live in it.
Yeah.
And I believe after 14 days, an investor can put a bid in to buy it.
Exactly.
And investors can look at it after the 14th day, I believe.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've done one.
Yeah. I thought it was something like 30 days, but
is it 30? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember. It's been so long since I used to those.
As an agent, I used to be all over that and find them for clients.
Well, and some of them actually came available on the first day where investors could bid. It just depended on the project. If they were uninhabitable, that made a difference. So yeah, they had that that's the line of distinction.
And if it was outside of like a bigger city, and small town ones were definitely open to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So he bought HUD homes to keep you busy.
Yeah.
And then what did you learn from going through that process with the more of acquiring instead of just working on them?
He didn't teach me anything
Nothing?
as far as acquiring goes.
He's like, here's the new address where you're going to be working.
That's exactly it. Here's the house. This is what I want done. And then he'd leave. And so it was kind of, you miss something, and so then you have to learn how to write things down, and then you do the stupid thing for probably 10 years where you write on cardboard and 2x4s that you have like scrap materials, like, hey, I need this and this and this, and then you go to the store and then you leave it in your truck and you got to go back and get it. So now the smartphone is just awesome. You can just pull up notes and just put everything there. But
how did you find your first deal then that you ended up buying yourself?
oh man, so I fell into 2 properties where it was rent to own. And I didn't have contracts with them, so I did the really stupid thing there. At 19, remodeled one of them, put, I don't know, maybe $15,000 of my own money, which was a lot,
Yeah, 19? Holy cow.
Because I was remodeling it as I was getting paychecks. So I was like, okay, like this week I can get insulation, and next week, oh, okay, I need more insulation, and then, then drywall, and just kind of going from there. But so I renovated one of them, and then the lady decided that she wanted to up the prices on them. And I had tenants or roommates, in them. There were 2 houses side by side in Benson, which was fantastic. And, I lucked out with some really cool tenants and roommates. But the lady tried to up the prices on the house. And, when I didn't have a real contract or anything.
You didn't have much of a leg to stand on.
No,
then, huh?
nothing. And so she ended up passing away. And her niece, who did not have to do it at all, was like, hey, I will still let you buy these at the original prices, but you need to get a loan right now. And I only qualified for one of them. So I got one of them, the one that I put the most money into, which was fantastic. I really lucked out there because anybody else would have just given you the boot. And then they sold off the other one. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, because that one I still had roommates in, so they were still generating profit. So it was nice.
All right. You came to her and she said, hey, I have these 2 houses. You do construction work. I'll let you lease these. And while you're leasing them, I'm going to sell these and I'll sell them to you after you do the work. Is that kind of the idea?
Well, she said originally that the houses didn't need any work. She was the kind of lady that if you bought a lawnmower and then it's brand new, you set it in the garage for 50 years, it's still a brand new lawnmower. so that's how she thought of things. And she was really sweet, right up until that one point,
That only really works with cars, just so you know.
Yeah, right. And then from there, I really wanted to get out of the rental game for a while, but then I still stuck in construction because you get dragged into it,
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, it was maybe 3 or 4 years later after that, I started getting really into reading books again and got into real estate, motivational, inspirational stuff. Started listening to hundreds of books on Audible, and then was doing a job that was just a contractor job to pay the bills and save up money so I could start purchasing real estate in cash. Because I have like 0 communication skills with people. So finding funds was like impossible to find a partner to go in on stuff, So then I saved up, bought the first house, a 5-bed, 3-bath in North Omaha for I think $37,500. Paid cash for it, renovated it, and sold. I think I only had to put like $5,000 into it. There was something small wrong with the house that looked like a really major deal to most people, but I had seen it before, so I knew it was a quick fix.
What was it?
Somebody had installed their subflooring like 6 inches up on one side in a hallway on a second floor, right where you got to the top of the stairs, the landing. So there was like a 6-inch dip up. And so you had like an uneven, like if you were walking into the bathroom, it was like, slanted like this. And then when you went into the bedrooms, there was like a 4.5-inch dip or so to get into the room, like a step down to get into them.
So everybody would just assume the foundation was terrible, right?
But the main floor was fine.
Yeah.
And you can look at the foundation and nothing looked wrong. So I was like, okay, either I'm missing something huge, which I don't think I am, or I'm getting this out of steel. And so, I ended up getting it. And just removed a couple of boards and flattened out the floor. And I was like, okay. And so then at that point, it was, flooring and paint and lighting, which are, 3 very quick and easy ways to change the appearance of any home. And I got it on the market. I think it was only on there for a month or so before it sold. I think it sold for like $80,000 or so.
Okay.
So,
and you probably had minimal into it since you didn't have to do a ton of work to it. Minimal amount of money of your own.
It was like $4,000. Like that
$4
was
$4,000.
Yeah, I was like $4,000 in. But
so you're all in for like 41,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was like 41,500 is where I was at. And so then I had that one, and then I bought the next one, which was, I think, something like 18,000.
What years are these?
Right.
Yeah.
So this was like a decade ago.
Okay.
Maybe a little longer.
Sounds about right then.
Yeah, because it just, I don't know, from like 20 to 25 is the same thing. From 25 to 30. I don't know if you guys are on the same.
We only hit 50. But, that decade was all the same.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So the first 2 you bought with cash. Did you keep doing that?
Yeah, I kept doing that. I think I got 3 or 4 in before I started reaching out to people because what I was trying to do was get partners to go in on, like, to give me $100,000 so I could buy 2 flips and keep them going. That way I wasn't bored waiting for one house to sell for a month or two, just sitting, on my hand. It's like really hard to do if you're used to working. So I was trying to get that and nobody would do it. Like I got one guy that took a phone call from me out of Florida, and I can like vaguely remember his name, but he was just like, "Here, what you need to do is find like a rich uncle and contact him and show him the work that you've done." And so with that information, I went to one of my older brothers and I showed him the work that I had done in these properties, what you bought for and what you sold it for, which he could verify easily online, So he looked at it and he was like, "Elijah, you do it once, you might be lucky. You do it twice, you're very lucky. You do it 3 times, you're onto something." So he was like, "Okay, so I want to go in on this." And so then he started all the paperwork, because with partnerships, paperwork, extremely, extremely important. It ruins everything if you don't have it. So
You learned that lesson when you were 19 buying the rent to own house.
Man,
Paperwork being important.
I wish. No, it's, it happens. But yeah, so we got a contract together and then kind of built out the company that we had, Problem Property People. And with that, we were, just purchasing properties in our own cash, not using banks at all. We didn't start using banks until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, something like that, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And then
Wait till you hear about hard money.
Oh man, so we tried that recently on something, and that did not work out very well for us. So
What happened?
Well, we purchased 50 apartments in North Platte, and we got a hard money lender in on it to help us. We still put a bunch of money in, but, to help us do the project. And what turned into, you do X amount of work, you send us the receipts, and then 1 to 3 business days, we get you the money. We did something like 113,000, I think is what's coming to mind now, worth of work, had receipts for it, sent it all in, had materials on site, had work done. And 6 or 7 weeks later, they came back with like a $3,000 check for us.
Ooh.
It was $600 per pull. That's why we were like, well, we could do $100,000, do the pull, do another 100,000, do a pull, and just like kind of run it like that. But because it took so long to get the money the first time, and then when we were asking them about like, hey, how is it that we're only getting $3,000? And their wording was, well, if you want to get paid out for, like, let's say paint, 100% of all the units have to be painted. It's not based on if you have 4 units painted or 10 units painted. And we're like, that's not what we agreed on. And of course, my brother Jacob's the kind of guy where if you give him a 500-page contract, he's reading every single word of it.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Elijah, there are so many redundancies in this contract. Like, they'll say the same thing 4 or 5 times over again." He's like, "So they're just doing it to wear you out." And so he's like, but nowhere in there does it say that you have to be completely finished. The wording in there says you can have 4 units painted, and if you do a pull for it, they have to give you the money for it. So then it was just back and forth arguing constantly. So that held us up about a whole year, whether it was 65 or 85,000 in fees and interest, because we're paying interest on the whole amount.
Yep.
The entire time. And so that kind of killed hard money lenders for us right then. But, so my brother's still scarred on it. He won't touch anything that's hard money.
Not all hard money lenders are equal, just so we all know.
I know. And so I'm actually trying that right now as well myself with a different hard money lender, but on another project that I don't really want to get into just yet until after maybe we're done with it. But yeah, so that contract kind of just blew up in our face. But then we were able to get a bank to work with, which was ridiculous because they have this big beef plant going out there. Something like
in North Platte.
Yeah, it's like a $1 billion plant or something like that.
Dang.
Yeah. And so what was really cool is they bought everything before COVID. So they got the HVAC stuff. I'm sure
they saved a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, even electrical panels, which about. Yeah. So an insane amount of savings there just buying it in advance. And then when they were doing that, one of the guy out there, wow, can't remember his name now. That's real bad. Briggs. He was like, well, he's the director of it. He was like, well, I'm worried that we're not going to have enough housing and you guys are 5 minutes away from us. And so he put up like some securities to a bank for them to be able to fund us. So we didn't have to put any extra money in. And I think they gave us something like 1.5 without us having to put anything in. And
Whoa.
So we're able to just steamroll through. I mean, we got more done in 4 months than we did the previous 12 before that.
Yeah, and because you were stymied by the hard money lender that was sending you $600 at a time.
Yeah, and so the bank even covered all that. We got the hard money lender completely out of the picture for us, and then just pushed through everything. So, and I mean that we didn't do anything for this guy. He just straight up came up, which is unheard of, right? Just a super nice guy.
Did I hear you right? He was affiliated with the plant that was being built, the beef.
Yeah, he's the director of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, we need places for these people to live.
Yeah.
Hey, real estate and construction, make this happen. Take my money.
Yeah.
Basically, or take my collateral.
He was kind of laughing at because he said that he worked in Omaha for Kiewit maybe back in the 80s or so. Mm-hmm. And Peter Kiewit passed away in the late 70s. So because he started working in the early 80s, he got to work with a lot of the guys that were working with Pure Cubit. And he said that, when you see a group of guys that say, we think we can do this, so we should try. He said that our situation kind of reminded him of that, because it was like these buildings were total trash and, we're turning them into something beautiful. And so it's like, okay, yeah, well, let's give it a shot. So
now, how did that 50 unit property even come on your radar being in North Platte originally?
Facebook.
Really?
Yeah, I want to say it was one of the
Facebook Marketplace. You just saw it for sale, and
one of the real estate pages. Yeah. So
and that's like a 5-hour jot,
a 4 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see the price and you see 50 units because I think we got it for like 230 or something like that. Yeah, 230,000. At the time, I think it was listed for like maybe 280 or 320.
230,000 for 50 apartment units.
Yeah. Does that tell you how bad they were?
What year were these things built?
50. I want to say 1950.
Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're spending more time on this for sure.
Yeah.
230K. I mean, what's even the math on this? Is that like 5,000 a door? Not even 5,000 a door?
Yeah. Which do you know what that causes for a problem?
What?
Banks.
Because they don't believe it?
They say that it's so far out of their parameters that they can't lend on it.
Like they're like, sir, we have to put at least 5 digits in this line. This doesn't compute.
Yeah, that's actually what it was. Some of them said straight up, like, hey, if you're not paying $18,000 a unit, we can't do anything. I think some were as high as $50,000 a unit. My brother Jacob's really good about checking boxes, so he got a whole list, 20 banks that he thought would possibly lend to us, and every single one of them just said, yeah, it's too far out of their parameters. So
okay, so tell us about the units. Like,
yeah, you said they were bad. What were they like?
How long was this been condemned, or was it condemned?
One building from a fire, another building from flooding, another building from flooding, another one from just like too many roaches. But there's just every scope of what you could think of was in these buildings, from people ripping out copper piping to
mold, I assume, fire damage.
Mold, yeah, the fire damage, fecal matter on walls. There was it pretty much became like the meth plat. Yeah. When I met with the city inspector out there, he said that was the worst part of real estate that they had out there. And he was like, if you guys are willing to work on it, we're willing to work with you. And they did. They worked with us a lot.
You had to fence off the whole property when you started that one, I'm guessing.
No, what was great about that is we were on site enough that I want to say it was only for the first month. People were showing up mostly on bicycles and walking to a specific unit where there was a dealer before. And so it was just letting them know, like, hey, your friend's not here anymore. And then whenever someone would come through, we just let them know, like, there were so many roaches in this building. I've seen roach infested places before.
Were there people still legitimately living in this building? Like, okay, so it had like tenants.
It had 4 tenants, none of which were paying rent.
Okay.
3 tenants and a property manager that was supposed to be living there rent free.
So utilities were on?
Utilities were somewhat on in some units.
He said there were 3 tenants and a property manager.
Yeah, and a property manager for whatever that is. But she helped us out in the fact that when I first drove out there to look at the property, she had said, oh, like, you're another one. There was 12 or so guys here before you, and I got them all to leave in like 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. And she was like, well, I'm not going to open any of the doors. And I was like, well, I have right here permission from them to open the doors. And I brought my own tools so I can open them up because they're all screwed shut.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, no, I'll help you. And so she just went on and on about how, like, oh, this building is, the next flood, the building's going to go down the street because of like how bad the foundations are, which is, never listen to what anyone says. Always look at the properties, right? So yeah, looking at them, the foundations were in fantastic shape. Most of the buildings were in good shape structurally. It was just mostly, electrical, plumbing, and drywall stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the flooring and cabinets, but in going in, it was like, okay, so this lady is legit just scaring people off because she's getting free rent here.
Yep. Yeah, that didn't pass the sniff test, literally.
Yeah. So it was just like, oh, okay, and that's fine. So yeah, I checked them out, and then immediately after looking at them, okay, actually, when I was on site looking at them, I got a text message from the seller saying that, because it was being wholesaled, the wholesaler said, hey, we're actually going to drop the price from whatever it originally was to $230. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I could probably get this project and then find a way to fund it myself. And I was like, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be way overly stressed. I'm going to be super limited on what I can do. And so then I reached out to like my brothers and like Jacob specifically. And then he found a whole group of guys to get together on it to be able to purchase it.
You called your team of your basketball team of a family.
Yeah. So I was like,
it's like Avengers Assemble. We got to go to North Platte.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And then, jumped over to talk to the city inspector to see what they were wanting, because there was talks of them condemning the buildings, which
Yeah.
would be harder to purchase then and renovate. And they did end up condemning them while we were like, after we put an offer in, they condemned them. And then we had to jump. I think I had to actually go in front of the mayor and talk to him about how like, no, we're going to jump right into this. We have all these, plans. And
You're like, you see this $600 check? We're gonna get this bad boy fixed up in no time.
yeah, pretty much what it was. Yeah. So, they ended up getting rid of the condemned status for us to be able to close on it and jump right into working on it. Overall, they were extremely helpful in getting the project going.
Okay, I want to, I guess, highlight something here. You were doing this. You had a business and a job also, right? While you were doing all this, or did you kind of put that all on hold and tackle the North Platte thing?
No, I mean, for the North Platte thing, we had a company that I had with somebody else. We were closing it out right then and there.
Okay.
And so I was jumping into doing more flips. And I believe we still did 2 more flips after that. So we're still doing those flips in Omaha and with problem property people. And then it was like, well, we're still going to roll into this huge, because this was like the goal from the start, get into bigger and bigger projects.
Yep.
And, this is the first time anything remotely came affordable, since I had, back in the day when you can get 20 units for 97,000, but you don't see those anymore really.
Interesting.
Okay, what was the scale of work? Are you still working on this property today?
We went from having 8 units ready to rent, which 4 of them we're keeping for just us because when we go out there, the hotels cost a lot, so we're keeping it for the electricians and for our own guys while we're out there. We were using local plumbers, but we went from those 8 online to 37 online just a couple months ago. And we're still, working with our property managers out there to get them all rented, but
same lady.
Yeah. Same lady. Yeah. No, it's another company, of course. And then we have, our speed kind of stopped for a second there because our plumbers got way too busy. And I mean, they went from doing 30 units in a month to, waiting 2 months to start anything else. But right now, though, just actually yesterday, I got the call. So they were on site and they were wrapping up the next 5. And then after that, there's just, 13? No, 5. So 8 left after that.
So how much money are you putting in as per unit then?
I mean, now it's a lot more than what we originally thought, but we're at 1.75, I think, in total.
And that's with purchase price?
That's with the purchase price.
So what's that break down to?
Dang, that's pretty good.
So how much is that per unit?
Let's see, that'd be what, 30, I don't know, 36 and change, 37, something like that. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it originally was going to be a lot less, but then we found out that the transformer for the buildings didn't have enough KVAs to actually do everything. The transformer was for maybe 4 units, the size of 4 units. So if one person plugged in a microwave, it could kill the power to a whole building. And so it was and we didn't, I didn't know anything about that. So a huge learning lesson there. And then normally a utility company will provide the transformers for you if you're doing something. They did not. And they went from, I think originally they said something like a few hundred or a couple 100,000 for just the transformer. And my brother Jacob and I looked at each other and it's just no, we just told them no. And then they came back to us and were like, well, 100,000. And we're like, no. And then we found something, I think on eBay, and we're like, hey, can we use this? And they're like, oh, hey, we found one for 40,000.
Oh, man.
So
it's funny how that works.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. So we got a new one in and they let us dig out the underground for it because they made us go underground with it now. And so, there's just a whole lot of extra work that went into it. But by the time everything's said and done, they're completely renovated from top to bottom. New windows, HVAC, all new electrical and plumbing throughout the whole. It's like new buildings with an old exterior.
So $37K though, a door, that's stout.
Yeah, it's still good. And I said that from the beginning. I think the very first conversation I had with my brother, I was like, I could be $1 million off on this deal and we're still going to be people are still going to say it's a good deal. It's not a mind blowing deal, but it's still going to be a good deal. And it ended up becoming that.
So the units that you've got leased up, are these all 1 bedrooms? Or are they 1 beds, some 2 beds?
Yeah, they're all 1 bedroom except for one is a 3 bedroom.
Okay.
So,
and what do you think your average rent is going to stack up to be once you get these things fully leased? Or I guess what have you released them for so far?
So they're at $875 per unit, and that includes utilities.
That's 1 bed?
That's 1 bed.
Okay.
Yeah. And that includes utilities and internet because we're able to get a really good deal on the internet. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it's $15 a unit or something, but only while they're rented.
So why utilities? You don't nothing separated? Does that mean
Right. Yeah. So the city was at first trying to argue with us that they wanted us to split the utilities, but then the utility costs would have been astronomical because each meter went from I think $14.50 a month from when we started to like $16 or $17 by the time we finished. So it's already gone up a few bucks in just like a year and a half. And so every person would have had to pay that in their, rent or whatever. And so we end up talking with the guy, the head of the utility company there, who's been super helpful. And he got us down to the 1 meter, which I think is like $60 a month. And because we're running everything underground new anyway, it just made sense that we would just cover utilities. That and the head of the plant for the beef plant, he had asked if we could make things as simple as possible for people moving to North Platte as well, to just be able to pay rent, move straight in, and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, you see that a lot more in workforce housing too, where it's all wrapped in. Like if you go and, say we went and looked at some places in downtown Omaha or South O, North O, like the older parts of town, you see that a lot more where people have fixed incomes and they need to know exactly how much their bill is going to be every month for living expenses, including utilities and everything else. So that makes more sense. And like we're going through the same thing in our Branson hotel conversion, where we have a lot of people that are coming to work. They're like seasonal workers from different countries. So they'll come in on it's either going to be like 16-week contracts or like 10 months. It's kind of weird how they do it there, but they have a busy season. And then during like January, February, it's like completely dead. Like you could shoot a cannon down the street and not hit anybody. You know what I mean?
I have a question just before you continue, Owen. Sorry.
Yeah.
How do you control the variations in costs in the electrical bill when you have everything on one? Do you do it do you have like a coin laundry or something, for example, for like washer and dryer, or everyone must stay only a maximum of 10 minutes in the shower? Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you control that?
You're like, shower, please.
Right. Yeah.
You start the timer on.
Yeah, you just put everything on a timer. Right. You get 5 minutes of Wi-Fi today. That's it. No screen time.
Wouldn't that be interesting? It's mostly based on whatever the charges are, is how much we just have to up the rent the next year's.
Okay.
But even with that, we have a laundry room there. So we have a place where everyone can do laundry, and that's just going to be probably do like a Wi-Fi thing on it as opposed to coin operated. Because it's kind of in a corner and maybe it's harder to see if someone breaks into it type thing. But then we based the rents on previous stats that the city had, which it seems like energy costs are going up anyway. So we kind of gave ourselves a little bit of a buffer in there.
Right.
But yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. And then I would also say, so like, are there central air and furnaces in these units, or is it some type of centralized heating and air?
Yeah, it's just, they're all PTACs. So it's
PTAC units.
Yep,
okay.
Yep, just like what you'd see in a hotel or something.
Yep. Okay. So PTAC units, you can get them installed quick. You don't have to run duct work. They serve the purpose pretty well. They're not ideal for long-term living, right? But if you kind of have to go through a comparison in other apartment amenities and adjust your pricing accordingly and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think keeping on top of the, electricity and utility usage during the year, and that'll dictate kind of where you need to set your rents. But also whoever's managing the property has to do a more diligent job of making sure people aren't like opening the window during the winter time while they're smoking a cigarette in their bedroom and stuff like that. So kind of like staying on top of the utility usage. You could also, throw a lock on their thermostat. You know what I mean? Like some of those apartment units where it's all shared, a shared furnace or whatever, you have like it's set at 72 and that's it. No adjusting.
Well, I mean, with those, they still have parameters like on the PTAC units. So you can set them so that they don't go below like 65 and they don't go above like 75 and stuff like that. So there's that. But then also the property managers are local. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted someone local, is because half of their employees drive past these buildings on their way to work and on the way home. So if they're saying that people are leaving windows open and smoking, those are things in the contract that would be, like what they call like a point mark or something. And if you get 3, you can get kicked out. And so it's the same thing with, when people say they have like a pet that's an emotional support dog or something like that. And, they can have those pets, right? But if they bark at midnight 3 times, then technically that's in the contract. They could be told to leave.
Yeah. What is it? You're entitled to quiet enjoyment of the premises or something like that. And yeah, if you have a disturbance, you can send them I think it's a 7:30 notice or a 15:30 notice, where it's like you got 15 days to comply, or in 30 days you're gonna have to get the boot. Interesting. Okay, so you're about 2/3 of the way leased up on this bad boy, it sounds like, to date, right?
No.
I thought you said 30
units completed.
Oh, yeah. Completed.
Units completed.
Yeah.
Okay.
37 units completed, of which we're a little bummed at our property managers right now because they only have a total of 6 units rented. And they've had keys for some of these for more than 8 of them for 2 months.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like, okay, guys, what's going on? So I had a meeting with them just last week, and I was like, well, okay, how many open houses have you held? None. okay, so you're doing that right now, right? And so they're doing one this Friday. And it's like, come on.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah. And they said, but we also had a lot of restrictions on them too. So we didn't want more than one person in the units because they're all about 500 square foot. And so like you get like a 20 by 10 living space, and then you get your bedroom, which is like 10 by 10, and then the rest of it's a bathroom and kitchen, so they're smaller spaces, so very comfortable for one, maybe two people, but not much more than that.
Was this property a hotel at one point?
It was like a trucker's lodge.
Okay. Yeah.
So hotel.
That makes sense. Yeah. So that's why they're kind of like micro apartments or whatever.
They're like micro apartments.
Yeah.
That first house that I bought in Benson with that lady, the upstairs apartment was exactly like what these are. They're like 500 square foot. And I had a PTAC unit in there and it worked great. I just had to keep my bedroom door open. That's about it. And then otherwise everything worked out great for me there. And I lived there for several years. And that's why I was like, well, in going into these apartments, these PTAC units, as long as they're like 12,000 BTUs, they should be more than enough to power the units and be comfortable.
Okay, let's fast forward to completion. So you've got this thing all done. Realistically, how much longer do you think it'll take to finish it out, get it leased up? Another year?
Yeah, that's a hard one with the leasing now, But now we're more on top of them to get things leased. But for completion, if we can get the electricians to show back up on it, we could be done with this in probably 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then work on leasing like kind of a lease party. Just try and get them all rammed in there. No, can you go to the beef facility that is it still under construction? Then I'm assuming it's not open yet.
Oh,
it is open.
It's doing like a soft opening. They were trying to get everything opened earlier, but I guess there was an issue with some kind of like water treatment plant for it, and someone dropped the ball somewhere on it. Is what it turned into.
Because you built it for them, they should be filling that damn place.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
And we actually have it so that as they're bringing people on, because they have some more people coming up from Texas right now. Like last month, it was people from Kansas, and when they're bringing the people on, there's like the HR people in their pamphlet have an ad for our apartments right there at the front of it.
Okay, so that'll help.
Yeah, so there's that. But then again, our parameters before of just having one person in them, we just canceled that last week, and so now they can have up to two people in them. Before, if you had two people, it was going to be like another $200 a month in rent, and we eliminated that as well. So
why don't you just take a unit or two, just throw some pop-up Amazon cheap mattress and bedding in there, and put in table. Don't put any decor or anything in there, and just put at least one unit up on Furnish Finder and get the opportunity to get some work traveling people in there. Those units will probably rent for about $1,200 to $1,500 on Furnish Finder, and then your property manager can still rent it out for you, and you can keep that one unit on there. And every time it rents, if you have to, throw another bed and a few things in the unit and continue that process. And for the $190 it costs to put that on there for one unit to advertise for a year, you'll probably pay for itself over and over and over again for you.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Listen to last week's episode with the CEO of Furnish Finder that we did.
Okay.
I have a one bedroom, 700 square foot place that Furnish Finder just put a guy in there where his house burned down. They're paying $1,850 a month.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, my units are a little bit bigger than yours, but I mean, no reason you're not getting $1,500.
It's funny, just making a quick comparison again to the Branson deal, because Branson's a really heavy travel town. So a lot of people come into town for the shows and all that stuff. Summertime's extremely busy there. So there's a ton of hotels, right? And a lot of Airbnbs. And what is happening is a lot of the hotels that were built in, say, the 60s, 70s, even 80s, they're starting to age out and they're outdated. To refresh one of those things costs a lot of money. So you see a lot of those being converted, or at least they were, into these small apartments like we're talking about, including the project I'm working on. And it's interesting to see the dynamic when you have a large portion of the tenant community coming from out of town, out of the country. A lot of them I've seen where we actually met this dude that owned it was probably, I don't know, 180 unit hotel, but he was using it as kind of like a midterm, longer term tenant base. And there were 250, 300 square foot apartments like you're talking about. And they were putting 2 bunk beds in those. And they were getting 4 people in the apartments, and they were renting them for like $300 or $400 a week per person a week. I mean, that's why I was just like, what? It's just crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So who cares if you only rent it for 10 months out of the year when you're getting like mad cash flow like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, more power to them.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Sutherland, Nebraska?
Yeah.
It's right outside of North Platte. Buddy of mine lives there, and it's a small town. He was telling me there's one Airbnb in the whole city I think I told you about this. And that unit is rented every day of the week almost year round because there's no other Airbnbs in that small town. So if somebody's getting their house remodeled or they have a family coming in, they don't have a big enough house, then they rent it, and he says constantly rented. So he bought a downtown building for $10,000.
Yeah.
And he's doing a event center on the main level, and he's putting 2 apartments on top just for Airbnbs. I'm like small town like that. I never would have thought about it.
Well, the town I'm from, Malvern, Iowa, there's a guy that graduated high school a year ahead of me, Zach Jones. He bought the old Baptist church in Malvern and turned it in. It's called Project Art Church, and he's an artist. So he's done a whole bunch of murals all over the place. He painted the inside of it. It's sick, man. It is super cool. He did a really great job. So he's operating it as more of like a bed and breakfast than an actual like Airbnb, but that's how he leases it out. So he gets, nightly and weekly and sometimes probably monthly rentals out of that. And I don't know how he does with it, but he's been doing it for a while, so I think it goes well. But yeah, the small town thing, it's funny how you can make a killing in a little niche.
I don't know. I don't know North Platte, but there might be some opportunity to grab some of that. It's so close, you got the right property for it.
Yeah, what's really cool about this property is it's kind of shaped like it's like a circle. And so all the parking's inside and there's parking on the outside as well. And so with it, it's 8 buildings in total. And so we're able to get just building online after building, And so with that, a huge park kind of catty corner to it. And then right at the end of the park, there's it's like a hotel, and it's like $39 a night for fully furnished. And, you can throw a couple beds in there type thing. So before I was a little discouraged about, getting furniture and putting it in because what if you don't rent it out because they've got somebody on site actually there doing that. And before I was on site a lot, but I'm not as much anymore. And so now I'm just out there only for power pushes, hey, electricians and plumbers are done. Now I'm going to get out here and we're going to get everything insulated, drywalled, painted, floors and doors, everything. And then I'm going to head back to Omaha. So I was a little discouraged in just buying more furniture and stuff and putting them in units, but it's not a bad idea to try it out. Maybe a couple.
Maybe throw out Furniture Finder because maybe that place has a bad reputation or it might be not clean.
Yeah, just itchy sheets.
Your place being brand new, you might be able to just throw a couple cheap beds in there and just hey, it's beds, it's a discounted price. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. I suppose the worst part about
Meth
that
lab.
is we already have them out there. Yeah. We already have beds and stuff out there because we're living out there while working. And, so for one of the units, we're reserving for just our own guys. So
test it out.
We could just, test it out. I don't see why not.
All right. I've got kind of a fun question for you here, Elijah. You ready?
Yeah.
If you could only pick 3 tools that you had to remodel a house with, what would they be? Can't use anything else. What do you think you could power through and get by with? What are your go-to?
Obviously a drill and a hammer.
Okay.
ChatGPT.
Right. Yeah. No. And then it's it's a circular saw or a level, because you can't, if you're going to build a house or something.
Hey, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Done is better than perfect, I guess.
You have to have a cutting tool.
Yeah. Yeah. So circular saw then. Yeah.
Okay. I like it. That would be an interesting challenge, wouldn't it? You had some competing remodeling crews on TV. There's 3 of them. And then you're like, all right, you have 10 different tools you can choose from here. You guys can only pick 3 apiece. And then they have to fight to pick the first 3 or something. I don't know. Let's workshop this.
Well, what would be interesting about that is, especially if you combine older with younger people, because you're going to have people that are older that haven't touched tools in maybe 10 or 15 years just because of whatever, they retired. And tools have changed so much in just the last 25 years that I've really actually been in construction. So it's, the fact that you can use a drill and do more than take cabinets off with it before it dies is incredible.
Oh yeah.
That you don't have it plugged in the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. And the multi-tool or oscillator, that thing, probably 15 years ago, I don't think anyone ever heard of them or had them. Maybe they weren't even invented, but now it's a necessary tool to have for everyday work.
You know what? I would say this, kind of taking a different tack on this, but I don't know why, but I can never find contractors that actually have a metal brake for doing, window wraps and door wraps and stuff like that. They'll be like, oh yeah, I can do everything. Yeah, I got that. I can do interior stuff, exterior stuff, no problem. And I'm like, oh sweet, you have a metal brake? Crickets.
Yeah.
Nobody has a metal brake.
I had one contractor with one, now that I think about it. It was very handy.
Yeah, it's always a siding guy or a crew, and they charge you up the ass for doing all the work. But yeah, I get so frustrated by that because I always need metal wraps.
For a reasonably good one, you're going to be paying $3,000, $3,500, but then you have to store it.
Right, and they're big.
Yeah, and
they're as long as this table.
Yeah, they're usually 10 foot 6 inches
Yeah.
plus a little bit, so like 11 foot. And so like your average truck, you're not going to be able to get that in, because if you do, you might break some teeth on it, and then it's kind of useless.
Yeah.
Or not useless, but just harder to use and not as good quality.
I actually bought one. I had a contractor that did pretty much all my jobs. He had his own business, but he just worked on my stuff. And this is years ago. But I was like, dude, if you find one of those ever, like, I will buy it with you. Like, I'll buy it and you use it on all my stuff and you can also use it, type thing. Then he ended up selling it and didn't tell me about it.
Shut up.
Yes. And I'm like, dude, why? Like, I need that. I have this thing. And he's like, well, the handle fell off and like you couldn't carry. It was a total pain in the ass to carry. Something got stripped.
So where's my money?
Yeah, whatever. We worked that out, but he did it on a lot of my jobs, so I think I got the better end of that deal. But yeah, I'm still bummed I don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other part of it too, is you need pretty much 2 people to always move it, and you have to have a van to do it. And so you just have to have all these special things in order to have that one tool.
Yeah.
My favorite tool is this little hand thing where you squeeze and it will peel the insulation off the wire for you. And it has a crimping tool all in one. It's just like an all in one, like kind of wire tool. I always switch out all my switches and light switches myself and plugs. And that thing's just really handy. I can clip, cut, and strip.
Yeah, that's a really good way to save some money just right there.
Yeah, it makes it nice and quick.
Now you're saving $10 every time you do it, Ted.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. What's your time worth?
$10, it sounds like.
Yeah. Okay, so what else do you have going on? We talked about the 50 unit, a lot of stuff going on there. You have a sexy name picked out for it. We've heard North Platte Complex.
Yep.
Okay, TM.
We also have it's 9 apartments and 2 commercial units in Plattsmouth.
Okay.
And that one, I actually picked that name, Amison and Dovey LLC. And that's the 2 original guys that built the building were named Amison and Dovey.
Oh, that's cool. A little tip of the hat to them. Yeah, I like that.
Built in 1850 before the Civil War. And so it's just really cool. It was right there, right off the train tracks when you're in Plattsmouth. So it's right at the end of their main street. And it was the only building intentionally left off the historic mark. And so their big thing there is that they're on the historic list of like maybe the top 10 most historic
properties
towns
in Nebraska.
Or no, in the United States or something. Like they're like really high up there. And so they take a lot of pride in it, and you could tell because they have people constantly going in, picking up trash and pruning trees. And it's super nice just to drive down it, like their main street. And this building was falling apart, because that's what I always get is just the absolute trash of buildings. And then try to usually the intent is to make it so that it's the best building on the block, but this is going to be one of those kind of Mission Impossible moments because the other buildings are so well kept,
Yeah.
And so, but we're just going to have the most modern building is all.
Hey, I forgot to ask you on your 50 unit. It reminded me because you mentioned Plattsmouth, and Plattsmouth is, probably 35, 40 minutes from...
It's like 25 from my house.
25. Yeah. Okay. So it's not a super far drive from the Omaha area, but it is known for flooding problems, right? So Plattsmouth has flooded multiple times in the last, a couple decades pretty badly. And North Platte, you mentioned you had a lot of flooding issues in that building. Was that due to natural flooding or was that split pipes or what was the driver there on the 50 unit? Hard to tell, or
no, absolutely split pipes and people distilling copper and people busting into walls trying to get into other units because they were on something.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
you said flooding. I was thinking like, well, geez, you're obviously buying something that's actively in a floodplain. How did you mitigate that? But that makes more sense now. You just fix the broken pipes.
And with this one in Plattsmouth, we've got the 2 commercial spaces are on the bottom and the 9 apartments are up top. And since we pretty much completely rebuilt the inside of the building, all new floor, ceiling, and roof trusses, subfloor. They were completely brought down to just brick, and then we just went up from there.
And this one's got, 1850s, that's got to have a stone foundation in it.
It's like limestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are really fun.
Oh, it's so cool. When you're tearing off panels of like the old walls and seeing like, it's not even wallpaper. It's stenciled on. Like you'll see like 12 to 14 inch just stencils of like blue paint. And you can tell it's stenciled because you can see like the minor paint mistakes in it. And it's just really cool stuff. But of course we just had to cover it all back up again. But is what it is. We still have pictures and videos of it.
What is the either coolest or most disturbing thing that you've ever found in a project or property that you've been involved with?
Landlords. So in going through some properties, some of the ones that we've bought, we buy them because nobody else will pick them up, you know? And so some of them, you're buying them from people with mental health issues where, you know, as a gradual decline over 20, 30 years. So maybe they've ripped out some walls because a medication wasn't working with them and they just kind of lost it temporarily. And then they didn't have the money or resources to patch those walls. So they're just open for 30 years. And then, you know, maybe they broke a toilet and it's just always broken. So then they just started going into buckets because that's what they could do. And so going through some of these properties and seeing how people have lived for 15, 20 years, like that really bums you out. And so that's probably the worst thing that you can see in it, you know, because like poop on walls, you can clean, right? But then when you see that someone's actually lived in that situation for 20 years, that's where you're just like, man. But then you clean it up, and when you purchase it, you give them enough money so they can actually go and survive. You know, but then as far as like the best stuff that you can find going into properties is mostly the opportunity to take something that's completely dilapidated and bring it so that a family can actually live there again.
Yeah.
No one's been able to live there for 20 years. And, you know, windows are broken, doors are open, and neighbors are, every time they're doing their dishes, they're looking out and they're looking at this house. And, you know, that's what they see for 20 years. And then you get it and you renovate it.
You're a hero.
Yeah. Yeah. To the immediate neighbors that come out and thank you.
A superhero.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, so they like you a lot, or at least they tend to after you start working on it. When you first buy it, they just assume that you're going to, you know, put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
But then when they actually see you ripping off the roof and actually replacing windows with new windows, and you know, that's when they're just like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want your number to let you know if someone's walking around and they're questionable.
I had this house I bought. I find it interesting how you describe that, the kind of the slow mental decline that people have over a number of years. And it's telling when you walk into a place where somebody's been a long-term tenant. Like I bought a few buildings where people have been there 20 years, 30 years and so forth. And it is exactly like you described. And the hard part about having a tenant in there that long is despite whether they're a good housekeeper or not, or they're having mental issues or not, they're just like, stuff gets worn out and broken, and like flooring, it's hard to go into a fully occupied unit and change out carpet or put in LVP and stuff like that while all their furniture and their household and everything's there, right? So a lot of times I bought buildings where the carpet is literally almost dust. It's been ground down to the pad, and then the pad starts deteriorating. So like literally you can see the subfloor through it. And people are living there like it's just normal to them. They've probably gotten irritated over a while, and they just are just like, well, this is just life now. And then, like you said, they figure out creative solutions to stuff that seems appalling when you first see it, but it probably made sense to them at the time because they were going through such a hard time. It didn't have other options.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Because usually when they're starting that off, it's not, oh, this is the permanent solution. This is just until we get to that next spot.
Yeah.
You know, where we can actually do something about it. But then something else happens, and then something else. And then like when they get to that one spot, they can fix one of three things, if that.
Yep.
And then it's, oh, well, the next time we get to that spot, we can fix this other thing. But then four more things, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Snowball effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, real quickly on this one, I bought this house probably, 7-8 years ago in South O. And I think we bought it for like, it was like 20 grand or something. And it was just a little 2-bed, 1-bath ranch, kind of one of those smaller cottage style ones. And the lady seemed totally normal. Talked to her. She had a regular, like not white collar job, but I mean, she worked in an office and just seemed, she seemed like she was high functioning. Talked to her, seemed normal on the phone, went out there. I parked literally there was not much parking available. So I had to park almost a block away, like a city block away. And as I'm walking up the street, it was during the summer, and the wind was coming from the south, and I was parked to the north. So I'm walking toward the house, and I was just like, whoa, what is that smell? Like it smelled terrible. Like I grew up next to a cattle lot, kind of like it was a few miles away, but when you caught the right wind, you could definitely tell, and it was just that animal smell, you know what I mean? And I was just like, dang, it kept getting stronger and stronger. And I walked up to the house, and I'm like, oh man, this is the one. Go in, meet the lady. And she's got she's got business attire on, looked normal and whatever. And her son was living there with her, and he was like 15 or 16. So it's just the two of them. And they have, I don't know how many animals, but there were like feral cats, random dogs.
Those are emotional support animals?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was probably raccoons living in there. It was so bad that it was not the Humane Society. It was the Department of Health was wanting to get involved and all this stuff. And I was literally walking through that house, and it was like, to your point, there's poop everywhere, all over the floors, smeared on stuff. And it's just animal feces. Yeah. And it was just like, and the kid's in his bedroom, and he's like playing he had a little acoustic guitar, and he's just like playing that and, watching TV or whatever. And I'm just like, this is their normal. Like, what happened here? And it's sad when you see that kind of like devolving over a period of time. And then when they come time to sell, it's like you see the aftermath of years of, mental decline or whatever it is. They lose the ability to take care of themselves and clean and things like that. It's just, I don't know. It's sad. Yeah. But making a property better like that, I would agree with you. It's kind of one of those things where you can, a little check mark for pride, on your side of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're cleaning out like a burnt down house, you get those firehouses, which I like those ones a lot. Renovating is just a lot more fun. It's a lot more satisfying than going in and just doing paint and flooring and cabinets.
Man, I steer clear of those. So
really, and
I do too.
And thank you, I appreciate that. But when you go into those, you get a hot summer day, just like what you're talking about, and that house burnt down 6 months ago, a year ago. The whole block smells it. Mm-hmm. And they smell it every single day, and they remember the day it burnt down if they were there, and so it affects everything in that area. So when you get those properties and you actually get them completely cleaned out, and then you get the studs that you can keep oil base coated with like some Kills or something, and you get that new framing in, that smell is gone. Yeah. So it's, people immediately again just start applauding, and it's like, okay, it's always the immediate neighbors that are like, hey, yeah, thank you. But because it affects them, especially the smell, that's a huge one.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're taking on a firehouse, what are some of the check marks? Because the reasons I stay away from those, even if it's like small fires, you end up having, it always seems like there's more than what you planned, either electrical, in the duct work, replacing duct work, the furnaces could get shot out, and then it gets to the city with permits. Like, what are some like standard rules you have when you're taking on one of those types of projects?
Foundation. If the foundation's good, I'll pretty much get it. That's what it turns into.
Like, how bad? As long as there's a foundation still standing, you're going to look into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's usually at that point, that's when you can get it for maybe the cost of the land.
Yeah, totally.
But you're getting it for the cost of the land with a good foundation and utilities already ran to the building. Mm-hmm. And so then at that point, if you have to redo the whole structure, then that's just what you have to do. So then it's just removing the structure that's there, making sure that the city's okay with the new structure that you're going to be putting in, which I want to say maybe the first time doing that, it might have been a problem, but anymore, if I'm talking to a city about it, whether it's Fremont or Omaha or Council Bluffs, going in, they recognize, I guess my name's maybe unique enough, or maybe they just recognize me, but then they're just like, oh yeah, I know this guy can do it. And so it's a lot less of a hassle after the first time. The first time is just a really big headache, but then after that, it's a lot smoother sailing.
Yeah, they're doing the whole lucky, extremely lucky, other something there thing with you.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you plan for like electrical and plumbing? Just plan to replace everything.
Everything, yeah.
And
if the number makes sense after you can do all that, then that's when you get it.
Is that kind of how you do it? Just with quick back of the napkin math, you just say, okay, I'm going to assume all this is shot and I have a good foundation to work with, and that's my price.
Yeah.
So you just buy it for land value. And
it's like within 5 minutes, usually, of showing up on a property, I can, depending on the size, within about 5 minutes, I can decide if I'm going to actually get it and at what price. And, sometimes it's, right at what they want. Other times it's, 20,000 less. There was one recently that was up for sale that I checked out with a different one of my brothers, and we walked through it, and they said it was like a 4-bed, 2-bath. We're walking through it, and it's definitely a 2-bed, like 1.5 bath. And so their price made sense for if it was a larger property, but it was not. And so, I mean, we were like 100,000 different in price on that. And so
they're like, it was here, I swear, it just burned.
Yeah, they were there. And it was like, well, some you win, some you lose. And so at that point, you just give them your offer for it. And if they're not good with it, then fine.
Condemned houses, I had the same kind of mentality. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to assume it needs all new windows, furnaces, electrical, plumbing. And a lot of times I should just rebuild houses. But in the end, if something didn't have to get replaced, I was winning. It was kind of always my mentality. But if I went in assuming it needed everything, then it was a lot easier to do numbers.
Elijah, are you to the point where if somebody is out there and they're an active real estate investor, like a lot of our listeners are, and they come across a fire damaged property that isn't, on the MLS that everybody knows about, should they call you?
Oh, yeah.
Like, would you partner with them or buy it from them if they were wholesaling it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
As long as the numbers make sense.
Anybody catching this? And I would say too, I've been doing this 20 years, and Ted, you've been doing it a long time as well, and bought some, condemned properties. I typically avoid fire damage stuff just because all the unknowns, and I didn't really approach it from the aspect of like, I'm just going to rebuild this whole thing on top of the foundation. And if I don't have to, great. But yeah, anybody catching this episode, Elijah, he might be a good resource for you in maybe a potential partner or somebody that's going to buy a deal from me if you find one. So yeah, that's great.
You could also be looking at a lot of these tornado houses, I'm assuming, too.
Yeah.
But you kind of hesitate on that because there's really no difference. A lot of those are clean slates. And,
I see them as I drive by, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you could. But I mean, just recently, I took on larger projects than I've ever taken on before. And so right now, I just need to get through the next month or two of finishing off these large projects that we have. so that we can make time for those kinds of projects.
Which trades are you struggling with the most? I mean, between like drywallers, framers, electricians, plumbing, etc. Which one's probably the most difficult for you to get locked down?
Electricians.
Really?
Yeah. And it's, 1 month it's electricians, the next month it's plumbers.
Okay.
But those are the two main ones.
The one I always struggle with, I have those categories I feel like always fill, but it's the drywall side. I always struggle with drywallers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear that from other aspects.
Yeah. He's like, if you're waiting for me to give you my drillers, you're
Yeah.
going to be waiting a long time, bro.
Yes,
No.
I was thinking about it, but he actually just told me that he's trying to do a really big push right now. So,
Yeah.
like Affordable Drywall Solutions,
Yeah.
they're ninjas.
Yeah.
They're incredible. I mean, they can get in and out. I mean, they'll hang 100 sheets like it's nothing.
Yeah.
I am making note of that right now.
Yeah.
And I got some plumber electricians I can refer you to if you have a need for that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You ready to talk CB?
Oh, fun. Yeah.
So I had to bring this up. Elijah, for those of you that have listened to me complain about this project, nothing to do with you, but just all the things that have happened.
you're
since
working
we
on
bought
this
it.
project?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So this is an office building that flooded a year and a half ago.
We've had
And-
all the states of Owen's emotions on this
Yeah,
project.
Oh, really?
If you were to listen to all the episodes, you'd hear from not wanting to talk about it to it's coming along.
yeah.
Coincidentally, though, real quick, I checked back on a podcast you guys did in January, and I think you guys did it January 3rd. He's talking about these fire issues, and then you're like, yeah, well, I think we're in a good place right now. We're thinking about maybe 6 months we can have this project done, and I was like, oh, and it's already July. Okay.
So that's funny. Yeah, okay. So this is the office building, historic property in downtown Council Bluffs, 27 office units. It flooded from the 4th floor bathroom all the way down, and then on the 3rd floor bathroom all the way down 2 days in a row when it was negative 39, I think is what it got it down to, wind chill. And Elijah came into the picture because he had done some work with Colin before, right? On no, or you just met him, knew him.
Yeah.
So that's how I got introduced to Elijah, and we have been meeting there pretty regularly over the life of the project to basically get the whole building renovated. And I guess from your perspective, and please don't pull any punches with this, but like, what has that project been like? You mentioned you were trying to get some bigger projects wrapped. I assume this is probably one of them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. But I mean, I think everyone wants that one done, right?
Yeah.
It's just when you've been on site for so many months and it's like, why aren't we done? And you're, looking at that and it's like, okay, well, we could have gotten the electrical done sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then when you hear things from people saying like, hey, yeah, I mean, we could have got the wires pulled, in 4 hours of, but it's been at that state for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so we could have had heat in the winter. And then now it's the middle of summer and my guys are working and it just sweat, galore because the AC's not on.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, so when you're overheated or you're too cold, you slow down. So
And you get grumpy.
Yeah. And you get real grumpy. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But luckily my guys are really, really good guys.
One interesting thing, the reason I'm bringing this up again is because, well, context, and then also because this is a big project and it's a commercial project and it's very visible in downtown Council Bluffs. And we've got, the city all up in our business about what needs to be done. From your perspective, have they been pretty decent to work with on this one in particular?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was kind of dreading going through this, but they've been pretty cool and like rational, and so far have not been like overboard about what their requirements are. And I think they seem to be very interested in getting this, completed and brought back online and getting good, good tenants in there and all that stuff.
And that's exactly it. It's usually with city inspectors, they might be, grumpy at first, but then as soon as they see that you're actually making progress on something, that's when they're just like, okay, yeah, no, like we're good. You're actually doing it.
The thing that blew me away about this project was, okay, so the flooding happened, right? And this was during the weekend on a, day when it was crazy cold and flooded, and the water was going for a long time before it got caught. And the building walls were all basically plaster and lath, right?
Yeah, with wire mesh behind them.
With wire mesh. And those walls retained that moisture for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was like 6 weeks by the time they finally got dried out enough to where we could actually start, doing work to it. Your team chipped away. It was crazy the amount of like just chipping away at the plaster you had to do to get it to dry out because the paint that was on it was all, keeping everything inside wet.
Well, yeah,
right?
because it's with it being like concrete walls essentially, right?
Yeah,
it's just inside the concrete sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's frozen. So you're like, oh, okay. So you pretty much have to wait until the spring, which fortunately a lot of the demo was done before we got there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was still plenty of walls that we had to chip out.
Yep.
After the fact.
And it's really starting to look great now. But one wall, we have one office suite in there that just for whatever reason the wall just keeps getting wet, and we think we have it. You think you have it figured out now, right? Like why it's happening?
There's just some missing grout outside.
Yeah.
So it was like right above a window, and there's a ledge there, so water was literally just running right into it.
Yeah.
So we patched that out and threw water on it, and no issues now.
Yeah, and anyway, so this is a very large project, and it's well north of $1 million for the cost on all the repairs and so forth. I did want to call out. You were mentioning, I think Ted asked you what your most frustrating trades are at times. How about elevators?
Oh, yeah. I think that out.
There's like a cabal of elevator company owners, and there's not very many of them, and it seems like they're all. I don't know what it is, but they just agreed to not be responsive. Take forever and to jack as much pricing up as they possibly can on everyone. That's what it seems to me like.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first time ever really working with elevator guys, and having them on site was nice because, they would straight up tell you, hey, like these doors scratch really easy.
Yeah.
And so they were really good about letting us know that. And so then we got that 3/4 inch insulation, the foam stuff, on the walls inside of it, so people aren't dinging up the inside of the elevator. But the most shocking thing about that was, like, in construction, people will tell you, oh, we think we can get done by the 13th of this month, and it turns into the 16th of the next month.
Yeah.
With that, there was, 2 or 3 months in there where there was parts that needed to be ordered, but because the guy that was supposed to order the parts went on vacation,
they didn't get ordered.
They never got ordered.
Yeah.
And so this project's sitting there for like 3 months without like anyone from the elevator company doing anything.
Yep.
And so finally it was like, hey, we're carrying up flooring, 5 sets of floors.
That stuff's heavy. Yeah, that LVP, each box LVP is like not light.
And it takes so much time. And then the guys that are lifting it are also the guys installing it. And so then
they're wiped.
So then they're not moving as fast. So it's like one of those things where it's really going to kill the time and material on it.
Yeah, and the morale.
Yeah, and morale especially. Yeah, it's a really good one on that. That's for sure. But then, after the elevator did get done and it was working, like the next day it broke down.
Yep.
They came out and repaired it. And then the next day it broke down again.
Yep.
And then,
Oh, and by the way, we're paying for every one of those daily deals, right? Or they're trying to make us pay for that.
At that point, yeah, they were just like, hold on, I think we did an elevator service over at that address, but I can't, like, they played ignorant, which really annoyed me. And then, that's when they were like, what was that? Like $497 an hour that they wanted for a technician to come out and look at the new problems. Like,
and he's coming out and he like pushes a button. Oh, there, that worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's your bill for $500. You're like, you just voodoo doll poking it with him.
Well, and it took him 2 hours to load up the truck and 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get home. So,
and then one day he showed up and then just like hung out in his truck for like an hour and then just took off without her even coming inside.
Yeah, one time the guys literally, I wasn't there for it, the HVAC guy was there, and he said the guy literally like jogged to his car when I pulled up and just left. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, and we called literally every elevator service provider in the metro area. Like, and they're just so frustrating. We should start an elevator company.
Not today.
Not it. Okay. All right, Elijah, we've talked about some interesting stuff so far, but we want to get to maybe something that ended on a bad note and something you learned from it along the way in a section we call
Failing Forward.
All right. You brought up some really good examples of learning lessons you've had. You got anything else in the hopper here you can share?
So when I went from purchasing houses with cash with my partners / brothers to using a bank for the first time, because I didn't fully understand everything that went into it. Because since we were paying cash before, we technically didn't have to have insurance on the properties. And since we're putting, $30,000 into them and holding them for 3 months, sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. And it just depended on if it was $100,000 or like a $200,000 deal,
Yep.
So then when it came to using a bank for the first time, I did not understand fully all the fees that went into that and the interest, which, even just a week more of research on that probably would have saved me like $15,000 or something.
Ooh.
So it was just, so the first property that we did that was not our own cash, I think we might have broken even or even just like lost a couple grand on. And and it was like our first like West Omaha house that would have been, it was one of the easiest flips that we had ever done at that point too, because that was quite literally just going in, flooring, trim, paint, cabinets. And I don't even think we changed windows out on it because they were still nice. And so I was like, okay, well, so we just didn't do as good on that one. But then, immediately after that, my brother Jacob kind of got on my case because that's what he's really good about doing. So he just got on my case and we went through it. And so that by the time we got into our second one, which another family member actually bought from us, like that one, we were still able to turn a good profit on it and get them in a house. And that was a good one.
Yeah. So the lesson learned there is sometimes it pays off to understand the agreements that you're entering into, right?
Right. Yeah. Especially since, it's weird that some people will talk to you and they'll say things like, how is it that you could do real estate and doing cash versus like you mess up the first time that you do it with a loan? And it's like, to start, I was a contractor. Mm-hmm. And so the numbers I've heavily relied on, for example, my brother Jacob to go in and do research for me. I understand a lot of costs, especially in construction and real estate. It was just the loan stuff, the loan details.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
Is Jacob like an attorney or like what is what's his job?
He's like an internet guru.
The beautiful mind.
No.
No, does he have a full-time job? Or is he in your suite of family businesses that you have?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the main partners in the family businesses that we have together. So, everything from like the 3PL to the e-commerce and real estate companies, he's a partner in I think just about almost all of them with the exception of the construction company. But so he helps out a lot. And because he said the beautiful mind thing, he's going to get a really big head right now.
Well, tell him his job's about to go away with AI coming to the forefront here. Just saying.
It's like working with that one. I get it.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We have one last section that we call the OT with Owen and Ted, where we cover 5 questions that we ask every guest.
And sometimes we mix it up, though.
Sometimes we do.
Yeah.
You ready for the first one?
Go for it.
Here we go. Softball. When you're writing your first book soon, what is the title of the book going to be or the topic? Or both?
I actually thought about writing a book in high school and it was going to be titled Life as Well. And it's just, as you go through your life, whether you're in a public school or a private school, no matter where you're at, you're probably wishing you were like in the other category. Because, private school people are probably like, you get bullied a lot or something. Maybe you don't get that in the private school versus like the small basement of this church school, where when you're there, you're just like, man, it'd be really nice to meet people, every day. And so just maybe Life as Well is going to be the title. And then just going through life, as like a used car salesman versus like a highly successful Ferrari salesman, and maybe where their mindsets are on it, or even if it's just like a police officer versus a crack dealer, and just going on your mindset for it. I think that'd be a really fun thing to do. So maybe my shoes and how my life has gone versus somebody that's just worked at, like a 9-to-5 job, like because you're working the 9-to-5 job, you're probably thinking in your head, like, yeah, I wish I could do more, maybe get into real estate or do something. But then you're in real estate and you're working, 80, 90 hours a week. And you're like, it'd be really nice to have just done a 9-to-5 job and had a family and, do all that. Yeah. So just like, I think that'd be a fun thing to do.
Well, okay. Let's say we're stepping into the multiverse here and you run into another universe's version of Elijah.
Mr. Marvel over here.
Yeah. What do you think that you, what would be another, I guess, profession that you think you might be interested in that you never scratched the itch on?
Director.
Of what?
Well, so even as a kid, they actually came out with like Lego. The company was failing, and then they partnered with Steven Spielberg to do like Lego stuff with like
like a movie director.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, like movie director. So yeah, they had a whole thing with Lego actually, where you could buy this like $200 camera thing, and whoever made the best movie got to actually meet Steven Spielberg and stuff. But I didn't mow lawns fast enough to be able to get the $200 for the camera. But I still made them on like the bazooka recorder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was really big on that.
Cool.
That's fun. Okay, it's your podcast. You can interview anyone in the world today, preferably live. Doesn't have to be real estate related. Who are you going to interview? And if you can ask one question, what is it going to be?
It could just be on any topic for anything.
Anything you want.
Yep.
So I'd probably reach out to Pablo Coelho. He's an author of the book The Alchemist, and he's written several other good books.
Great book.
Yeah.
You read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I read it right when I was 19. It was a book that I listened, normally everything I'd listen to or read was like business structured in some way. But with that, it was appealing enough at the time. And I've read it several times since then. But I suppose I'd ask him if there was, I suppose a way to get more of his books to become movies, because not to say that movies are better, but I feel like when someone writes a book and it becomes a movie and people watch it, maybe they're more likely to read the book. And so he hasn't done one on The Alchemist, but he's done some on some of his other books. And
it's a good, it is a very good book. It's a classic.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would probably be my question for him.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. All right. Next question. It's funeral time for the Erdei family. You've got 11 of your siblings in attendance, in addition to a bunch of other people because you're a nice guy. Who do you think is going to be the one that's going to pop up and say some nice things about you, or some things about you? And what kind of legacy do you hope you're going to leave behind?
I could foresee my brother Jedediah stepping up and talking, maybe even my brother Gabe as well. He's the oldest, but Gabe would be, more serious. Jed would be more joking. The kind of legacy that I'd want to leave behind, well, I suppose everyone hopes that they can build enough within their own family that their families can keep on living, right? But you also don't want them to live and make everything fall apart. Families are always rising and falling in America. So, I'd hope that by the time I'm gone, I would have raised my kids well enough that they have strong heads on their shoulders and they're just not trash people. That's about it. I mean, as long as
not trash people.
Yeah, as long as they're trying to do better for the world than worse, for whatever that means,
Are any of your siblings named with non-biblical names?
No, they're all biblical.
Are they?
Yeah.
I was waiting for there to be like a Sally or something like that.
No, but usually when you go through the names, because, growing up, that was like the big question people would ask, because they'd always think you were lying. So like, well, name them oldest to youngest or youngest to oldest, it's like a game. But, then you'd say some of them like, that's not in the Bible. It's like, do you know? But yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I have 9 neighbor girls, and they all have biblical names.
Oh, is that right?
And some of them are difficult names.
Like what?
I'm not going to get into it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
From like the same family?
Well, now I'm curious.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So 9 girls, all biblical names.
Is there a boy?
No.
Oh man, you're gonna have 10 girls there soon.
I know
keep trying.
There's some names I can't pronounce, but there's simple ones like Mary and Margaret, and keep on going down the road for that.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, but hey, okay. So think about this: the person that's had the biggest impact on your life, mentor, dead or alive. Who is it? If you can speak to them directly and say thank you, what would you say right now?
So that would probably, that would be Mike Howell, my original boss for getting into construction. So he's my painting boss. But, I was 16 when I first started working for him. And, just like every 16-year-old, probably had a really bad attitude that, anyway, he's had the patience to work with me on it. And him giving me all the overtime and being able to work with me more. And I know it's because I was giving him the overtime, but to be able to show me how to do more and more projects and then bigger and bigger projects. And then, getting me past that point of, I guess, ick or ew, when you walk in and there's just trash everywhere or something's disgusting, maggots all over something, you can just get past it because it's just getting the job done. So yeah, I'd definitely just like to thank him, for all the experience and lessons that he's given.
That's great.
All right. So what's next for Elijah? You mentioned the plan was always, and then you mentioned, the 50 unit, and you've done some bigger and bigger commercial projects. We're going to zoom out 5 years. What do you think is going to happen between now and then to make you say, you know what? We are right on track. This is the Erdei plan. All day Erdei.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're on track now. I'd say we've even maybe bit off more than we can chew type thing. But you really can't grow unless you're doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you bite off more than you can chew. And so right now, we're getting comfortable with doing, a handful or a few of these large projects all at the same time. And so the next step is going to be, we're going to get really comfortable with this probably in the next 6 months or so. And then it's going to be, okay, well, now let's do 10 really large projects and then grow through that, because that's what it turns into.
Okay. This is a one-off, but I think this is a good question. You're running, you said a handful of larger projects. If somebody came to you right now, let's say you're maxed out on let's pretend you've got 3 different really substantial commercial projects going, whether it's large flooded office buildings or like 230,000 50 unit properties,
and calling an owner your clients on each one of them.
And they have
cringe.
So let's say, knowing what your current capacity is based on your staff, your bandwidth, your hours available, someone else comes along and they say, hey, heard good things about you. I have this large project. What would make you say yes to that, even though your bandwidth currently won't allow it? How can you grow beyond the limitation that you currently are operating under?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I do have people reaching out, and I just tell them no. We also have 4 flips that are coming up, which are I'm probably going to do like a little video series on it or something, because we're going to do these 4 flips in like 6 weeks. And, one of them is down to studs because there was a fire in it. And so it's like, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be interesting and educational for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would totally watch that.
But, so, 4 flips, 6 weeks.
I'll even do a cameo on there if you want.
Yeah.
I can tell you how scared of firehouses I am.
Well, one of them is right next to that one in Council Bluffs.
Oh, good.
So you can almost walk there. But so we have those to do after we're done wrapping up these like 3 large commercial things right now. So if someone were to come along with something like that, I'd just tell them, come October, November, December, something like that. If it's still on the table, we can go into it. But, realistically, a lot of the deals that come my way, like if I'm going to be partners in on it, a lot of those deals, they don't just happen like, oh, hey, it's today and then tomorrow we bought it. It's usually something that takes weeks, if not months to get.
More of a lead time with those large ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so being a contractor, you just have to think about that anyway, because you have people that are relying on you to be able to pay their own bills too, right?
Yep.
All the employees. And so you just need to make sure that you have that work 6 months from now so that they're not worried about it. And when you can show that, then, they usually work better, like harder. And
Yeah. Now, how do you, I guess I'm thinking of you're running these bigger projects and then you've got 4 flips that are coming into the fray here. You're borrowing from kind of the stuff that puts food on the table and you're moving people over to work on flips that are kind of like a side project. How do you think about that?
I mean, at this point, as far as like the flips go, I can do them in my sleep. They're just so easy at this point.
Got it.
It's just so, it's not mind numbing because it's still super satisfying taking something that's dilapidated to something that, a family can move into or a single person, doesn't matter. Just someone can enjoy it is the whole point. And so these bigger projects now are like that, like wartime general, you want to get in there and get stuff done.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I think the worst thing for me is, I don't want to be that person that flips one house a year or does one big project a year. And then 20 years later, you've done 20 projects.
Yeah.
It's like
makes
that,
sense.
That to me scares the living daylights, so it's like, if I ever need motivation to do something, I can just go down that rabbit hole. And then it's like, okay, nope, here we go.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, thanks for bearing with me here on the add-on question. But well, that's great. So here's the last question for you. How can our listeners reach out to you? And are you looking for anything in your business right now?
So they can reach out via email, just oakcontractingomaha@gmail.com. And as far as right now, I'm getting electricians from you. So
Yeah.
hopefully that works out.
I got a couple.
But
one just invoiced me while we're sitting here.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Nothing comes immediately to mind, but that's because I'm ill prepared.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's fair. You're a busy guy.
Send you all the burned down houses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
do that. I'll take them.
Cool.
And we'll have an affiliate program worked out for those leads, so don't worry about that. Well, Elijah, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I think the story on North Platte will definitely, be one to remember for a lot of people listening to this, because I think everybody kind of has that big takeaway, and it's a very interesting story to hear. And I wish we would have dug a little bit more into how hard it is to work with Owen and Colin, but we can say that for a future episode. But with that, Owen Dashner, will you sign us off?
On behalf of RIA Radio, Ted Kosh, Dennis Bertrand, and the absent Aiden Bear. Loser. I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to Elijah, still waiting for that prom date, Erdei. Signing off. No looking at my notes.
232.
You're raw dogging this, buddy.
Oh, raw dogs. What was that?
Don't know. But
Are
it's
we-
still recording.
Are we back live?
Yeah, I mean, it's still recording, but I don't know what happened just now.
Okay. Well, little power surge here. We were in darkness briefly. Ted, put your shirt back on.
Yeah.